Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast. This is going to be a pretty powerful podcast. I've got a feeling about that already. I'm Cuddy Cudworth, the host of the podcast. I'm a big believer in if it's in the mind, it can be managed. That's talking about trauma, that's talking about people's habits, that's talking about people's perceptions on life. If it's in the mind, it can be managed. And today is going to be a pretty powerful podcast, and I'm going to let my two guests introduce themselves, and I shall start with Tom, as he's told me I can call him, not Thomas. Tom, introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Tom. I'm 39 years old, married, got a little dog called Jasper, and I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Sabre Warrior UK, which is a suicide prevention program here and in the UK.
And is that suicide prevention for ex-service?
Yeah, well, serving or veteran members of the military, police, or fire.
That's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Tom. That's amazing.
You're welcome.
And Adam, tell us who you are and what you do in a fantastically lovely shirt.
Thank you. My name's Adam Gornell. I'm 42. I am also married. I have 4 children, and I am the CEO of Sabre Warrior, a former Royal Marine, and it's a pleasure to be here.
And two very handsome gentlemen, if you don't mind my saying, before we go any further.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Take it while I can.
Absolutely fantastic. So we are going to be talking about suicide. We're going to be talking about ex-military service, as you mentioned, first responders. We've got quite a few first responders that come down to the dipping group. I'm pointing because that's where we dip. It means nothing to you or any of our listeners or viewers of this podcast, but technically just down there. And trauma and PTSD, and I think that's what's going to be the biggest conversation out of this podcast, because tell us about what Sabre Warrior is. You mentioned there, Adam, about yourself, but talk about your time as a Marine, going to Dubai to start your coaching and security career, and then finding and stumbling on Sabre Warrior, because that's a fantastic story that needs to be shared. So tell us about that, Adam.
Great. So I say to people that I've been in the suicide prevention since I was 20, which is where my first lived experience of an attempt to really take my life. And thankfully, the stars aligned that somebody, a former, a Marine at the time, forgot his wallet on a night out, and on his way back up the stairs, stumbled up the stairs and woke me from my stupor. And I reached for the door, opened it up. He saw me and saved my life. So that's really the inception of all of this. And it's been quite an interesting journey of being shown, experiencing different things, and my framework and philosophy of life being shaped by events, people, my upbringing. I grew up with my mother. My father divorced my mother when I was 2, and I grew up in Tenerife with my mother. And so I had this very nurturing energy with me always, and it's never abated. And I think that nurturing energy gave me access to the feminine qualities of emotional intelligence or sensitivity, we could say, and that's really shaped my sort of framework and my philosophies of life. And it was very miraculously, I think. I don't think this would happen today. My mother convinced the major general at the time, that it would be in the best interest for me to remain in the Marines, to not get discharged, and to rehabilitate within the Marines in uniform. Now, I don't know why she suggested that, but that was what she understood, that I actually did love the Marines. And that's what happened. She took me out of the clutches of the psychiatrists who were about to put me on medication, psychotic medication that was going to put me into a deep stupor. And we can come on to that later about medication and numbing. But my mum had this intuitive knowing. It's like, no, you're not doing that to my son. I'll take him for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Like I said, she called up the general and said, I'm looking after him. All right, I'm going to sort him out. I'll get him back on his feet, and then you can have him again. And so that happened. Again, I don't know if that would ever happen again. but it did. Very fortunate, and I rehabilitated, and then I spent the best part of 10 years in a career that I loved, doing jobs that I loved, and going to places that were amazing, gaining lots of experience, developing a certain set of skills that then I went on to use when I left the military in 2009. At that point, I didn't know what the real world was. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what taxes were about. Mortgage, all the rest of it, right? All that gets done for you pretty much. And so I had to learn that pretty quickly, set up a business, a tiling business, did that for a year, loved it. And then the maritime security opportunity started coming in. So I did that for a little while. And then I started, just driving boats commercially in wind farms, eventually getting a contract out in the Middle East, UAE, where I moved the whole family out there, married with my 2 children at the time. And it was a great move, though eventually we ended up being divorced. And it was in that little window in 2016 where I suddenly came out of this relationship for the last 10 years. And I asked myself the question, and again, it's sort of like these things happen fortuitously at certain events. And this question that just came into my mind, who am I? Simple question, right? Little did I know that it was going to unravel a whole journey of exploration into the dark recesses of my consciousness and question my existential meaning and what's it all about and who am I and where am I going kind of thing, right? But an important question, we could say.
It is a good question.
Right? The Greeks figured that one out a long time ago. Know thyself. And so yes, that really just opened up this mindset of possibility, curiosity, okay, and a willingness to sort of explore different avenues. And I just became this voracious reader, and I consumed a lot of information based on the human experience. Yeah. It's like, I was just fascinated. I am still to this day fascinated by human beings. We are incredible creatures. Yeah. And, Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, were my big influences. And that began to really sort of allow me to have, I guess, access to a world and give me a map for that world in which to navigate it. And one thing led to another. I went to America for quite a few months and worked with a company out there and learnt about emotional intelligence, emotional fitness, and emotional alchemy, and conscious relating, and all of that woven into the startup world in the business sense, right? So how can we make businesses emotionally intelligent, right? Which is an interesting concept into itself. And on the back end of that, COVID 2020 now, and I was with a group of entrepreneurs in a mansion, isolated, and we just went to work, and that's where I developed the bulk of a lot of my sort of coaching program aimed at veterans, and realized that I didn't really have a compelling enough reason to ask for veterans to pay me money to coach them. It was almost like it was sacred ground almost to do that, and so I couldn't do it. There was lots of blocks and barriers. So eventually I sort of opened up the coaching to everyone else, right? And I just marketed it with the team that we had, and it was great and it was working. And eventually got into hypnotherapy, became a hypnotherapist, and then that opened up the avenue for inner child trauma and doing inner child hypnotherapy, family constellation. And so we started to open up that. And so that was fascinating. And that's where I experienced my first true healing with my father at a distance. So I say not there with him, but the inner child hypnotherapy session, one session. Again, another moment, completely transformed everything for me. Yep. And it healed my relationship to my father, to myself first, but then with my father, and opened up my eyes to this thing about our relationships to our parents and how they're so foundational to, who we think we are and where we're going, etc. And so that was a game changer, which then led me to, like I said, explore this possibility. Well, how can I help veterans? I know I can in some way. And one way or another, I found I got a message from the CEO at the time of Saber Warrior, which is this organization in America that had been doing fantastic suicide prevention work with veterans and first responders in America for 10 years at the time. And I had the privilege of going over there, meeting the whole team, and being sort of, I guess, given the mantle of responsibility to bring it back to the UK. And that's really where, October 22, that's when that happened. And ever since, we've been building the team over here in the UK and launching our first cohort in October. So that's the big milestones, we could say, that have happened. Yeah.
Fantastic. That was a lot. Big, beautiful story. Thank you very much, Adam. That was beautiful. Thomas, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah,
I mean, dutifully listening.
There was one point there that I was sort of like, there's two parallel lines going on here. So he mentions 2009. That's kind of a big turning point in my military career, because I realized actually I could be more than the fat drunk that I turned into being, and actually become get promoted. So around that time, I got promoted to corporal, and then went on to my first operational tour as a corporal with 2 Squadron, and that there was, a defining turning point in my career. That's excuse me, Adam, you mentioned about who am I, this question. My who am I, my question was stood in inspection ranks on the All Arms Commando course in 2015, with my Bergen laid out and my roll mat and the sleeping bag and boots and socks that were double wrapped in plastic bagged, and keychains on things, on links, and all of this stuff. And I'm stood there and I'm like, I'm 31, no, I was 29, 30 years old at the time. I was like, just ruined a marriage, and I was throwing my career down the pan, and I was losing all of this self-respect. And I've basically done a really good job of destroying the castle around me. And I was like, who am I? What am I doing here? And I just had I had a hissy fit, you could call it that, but I had a proper breakdown within about 5 minutes of being absolutely fine to, nah, I'm not okay. And I put my hand up to the DS staff. I said, staff, I'm VW. I'm voluntary withdrawing from this program, this course. I'm out. And they was all shocked. I was fit. I was capable, and I could have passed that course running backwards. I could have. I just didn't want to be there. And I packed up my stuff, got off the camp, and on that drive home, this who am I thing came to me again. And I was like, enough's enough. I put my foot down on the accelerator, approached around about 120 mile an hour with the intent of flying off the fucker. And I hit the first set of rumble strips, hit the second, and then stop. And I managed to navigate around the roundabout and safely come to a stop on the other side, heart rate panting, all like, shaking like a scared little dog. And called me mum and just had a chat. Like, that was it. Didn't tell her anything, didn't say anything, just asked her how her day was. And it was just a normal Tuesday. It's just a Tuesday. And never sold another human being about it. I never vocalized it. I never thought about it myself, about what happened. I could have used car as suicide, that weapon system that we're all in.
Yeah.
That doesn't get recorded as a loss of life. Okay, it's a road traffic accident. And that there triggered me to fly out to America to go and visit a friend, best friend. I wanted to go on a holiday and have a break. And whilst I'm over there, he looks at me in the eyes and he goes, "Mate, you know you got PTSD, right?" And I was like, "Ah, no, mate, I'm absolutely fine. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm looking good. I was lean, six pack. I felt great. I could run quicker than everyone with a fag hanging out of my mouth. I was awesome." But he said it again. He said, "Look, maybe we should maybe we should try this." And he passed me this PDF document of psilocybin and the use for treatment of PTSD. And I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, I've never done mushrooms. I'll give it a go, you know. And we did it right. He really held a very good ritual for me. He said, "This is not us getting high, mate. This is you, really doing some work inward for yourself. This is different from just going out on a nightclub." And then I realized, actually, okay, this is probably a good thing. So we spent about 3 or 4 days purging and getting clean and doing it right. And we set a fire. We had a ritual. We really went to town on it. And after all of the visuals stopped, there was this release. I could talk for the first time ever in my life. And but even still, Adam, like even still at that point, with all of that honesty just pouring out of me, still didn't go onto the thing under the thing. That didn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back from there knowing that I needed to leave the military because the military wasn't serving me. And I got home, told my parents, they was upset. I don't think they've never really truly. We've never had the same relationship since. It's not been it's not been the same since I told them I was leaving the military and told them about the stuff that I'd done in America and all of that stuff. And I PVR'd. I got out. I thought that getting out of the military would be enough to ease this suffering that I had inside, but it just followed me. And without the unity of you know the military to hold me in this identity that I'd grown myself as soldier, um, the wheels just kept falling off but nuts and bolts were loosening, and I bounced from job to job, and I was drinking more. I was smoking and hiding it, and you can't hide smoking. Your wife will smell it no matter what. But I yeah, I then got to 18th of August 2 years ago, so 2022. Had a massive breakdown in the living room downstairs, screamed at my wife saying that I'm broken, I need fixing, I'm fucked. Proper sort of like hands outstretched, Shawshank Redemption moment, looking into the rain. And that's where I was like, I need to do something about my life instead of careering towards a suicide by alcohol, suicide by cancer from smoking, and all of these incorrect things I was doing to my life and my body, drifting away from a happy life, knowingly couraging towards the cliff. And a month after that, September, October, Adam pops up on my LinkedIn, and the whales were always there, and I didn't know that language at the time. I'm still understanding it now, but there's a reason why I'm here, and there's a reason why I'm doing all of this, and I don't understand that fully yet. All I know is that I'm completely trusting my future over to this thing, and following my gut and my heart and where I know is the right thing to do. People have warned against it. People have said maybe you should just think about getting a normal job, Tom, and earning a wage and getting back into the 9 to 5 and having that normal life. Nah, that's not for me.
It's not.
Not now.
It's not. It's the cut. So we're going to start. Thank you for sharing, Tom, because that was again another beautiful, humbling story, and it's such a powerful story for anyone that gets to hear this podcast, see this podcast. And I'm going to post it with all the areas that I can. Is there's a saying that we suffer more in here than in actuality, but it's the conversations that we get stuck in. And from what I can hear from you gentlemen is the feelings of being broken, the feelings of not being normal, these kind of ethics and conversations that keep going around. I've always called it my monkey mind. I learned about monkey mind when I thought I was going absolutely mental, and my nervous breakdown was nowhere near as bad. It was a failed attempt at something, and I just couldn't grasp it. And my nervous breakdown and the spiral into depression and woe is me and just all the horrible things, the victim mindset that I went through at that point was one of those beneficial things of now you look back and I'm like, it was good for go down there because I wouldn't have found the way out otherwise. And I think that's for anyone that's struggling right now, whether they are first responders, whether anyone out there from where you are, because that's the hard part of the journey that you go on. You're going on your journey of light now and compassion, which is absolutely amazing. When you see people suffering like you were 10 years ago, what is it you want to say to those people? What is it you want to say, whether they're first responders, when they're ex-veterans, whether it's someone who's just walking down the beach tomorrow with a dog listening to the podcast on YouTube? What is it you want to say to those people that think they're broken, there's something wrong with them, they just need fixing? What is it you want to say, Adam?
I see Tom's jumping at the bit.
Oh, if Tom's jumping at the bit, I was just trying to switch it up. Tom.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what I would tell them. I would just show them. I had a conversation with someone this morning on the phone, and I couldn't tell them how they can de-stress their life. I couldn't tell them. I only have to show them. It's incredibly hard because if I look back at myself, I was fine. I didn't have PTSD. I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't doing drugs whilst I was in the military. I wasn't ruining a career. I wasn't cheating on my wife. I wasn't doing all of that stuff. I was fine.
Yeah.
What do you tell someone that is so in denial that they're lying to themselves? You've got to show someone. So the words are incredibly hard. And as a digital marketer, I've sat here and pondered this. How do I tell people this? And the only way I can do it is showing, and it's bearing all online and actually putting my story live, which, we've spoken about this in literally in the last 48 hours. There's got to be a change on that because there will be a change, but it's incredibly hard. It's probably impossible. It's like inception, you can't plant the seed in the mind if it's not pure, etc. I can't remember the exact words, but it's probably one of my favorite films as well, by the way. But it's incredibly difficult. But I would just show them, but they've got to be open. They've got to be honest and open and willing, ready for it. Unless they are. And Adam, you gave me this quote as well. There's a lot of bouncing back at you here, mate. Just let me know if I've got it right. If you're not ready to put the poison down that's making you sick, you're forever going to carry on that road of destruction. So, yeah, I don't know the exact words. I just showed them. Adam, you'll probably have a much more, elaborate and probably more succinct way of putting it. Hope.
Yeah.
No, listen, I appreciate that approach that you took there because that mirrors a a real parental energy about you when you say that. Because of, you know, as parents, we can't tell our kids anything. We show them everything. And that is a key aspect of it. And the saying that goes with that is, you know, if you want what he has, do what he does. Okay, so that's the first thing. And Tom's bang on there. Yeah, there is an element to this of actually witnessing somebody that had PTSD that was drifting off to this location, this point of, you know, inevitability almost off the cliff. And knowing that they did that and they did something about it, something transformed. You see, because it's not about adding anything. It's not about giving them another tool. It's not. Their world is spinning this way. Okay, when they come to us, their world stops for the first time ever. And they can finally be with that which they could not be with. And it's in that moment there is possibility for the first time. And they have an experience of possibility. And it's in that frame of mind, it's in that zone that grace enters, that possibility opens up to them, and they can finally connect with their being. So we are deep into the study of ontology, study of being. And when someone says to you, you know, what do you do? That's where we immediately go to. Like, we're human doings. We're not human doings. We're human beings. But it's in the stuckness of doing more, better, different, hoping for different results. More, better, different. I'll do more, better, different, more, better, different, more, better, different. They're stuck. And the severity of that stuckness is on a gradient, okay? But ultimately, and I just want to create a distinction here in languaging, suffering and struggling are not the same. And the ones that or the opportunity, the possibility that we illuminate for others is that you come to us when you're done suffering. Suffering is that stuckness, doing better, different, more, stuck, same patterns, and they're suffering. And a lot of it is an unconscious attempt to numb the pain, to numb that which they cannot be with. That's mostly what's going on for them. There is something, an angst, a deep pain that they're numbing in this doing in order to have, right? Dominating so as not to be dominated, winning so as not to lose, being right so as not to be wrong. Okay, that's the stuckness. And they're suffering and they're paying a price. Their price is their vitality, is their liveliness, is love, connectedness. And so we offer them the possibility, but they have to be done suffering. Once they're done suffering, then, as Tom has illustrated and spoken about already, we lift the veil of denial. Because most of us, me too, when we began this journey, the veil of denial was thick. We're in denial about our own denial, okay? And so being honest is the first step. Being open to possibility and a new way of seeing life, and then willing to do the work. Because, you know, those are the three main areas that have to be understood, and someone has to go through at any walk of life, not just veterans and first responders. Anyone who wants to be done suffering with whatever it is they're suffering with, that is the process. And so we offer them that. And the other thing I would say is that there is a map. There's a map. There is a process. There is a way. And that way is rooted in a deep presence of who you are. And we give them access to that. And they come out of that with the power of declaration, of like declaring themselves as being day by day, minute by minute, moment by moment, which actually approximates the most to what actually being a human being is. The essence, the power of now, right? Here and now.
Absolutely. I can't
right?
Preach.
Right. So that's that it's never even known that that's a possibility, and so they have to experience it. But yeah, just to say to anyone out there who's suffering right now, know that there is a way, and there is a map, and there is a process.
How do you get the message out? Because it's always the missing link from when does somebody, because I know what I do with when I'm coaching, and I always, when we're coaching coaches to be coaches, it's like people won't move until the pain of staying where they are is less than the pain of moving forward. We know that. We know that. It's how does somebody know that they're ready to stop suffering? What's so they can get to Save a Warrior, to UK, yourself, the team, Tom. What's the sign that somebody doesn't realize is probably we often say the universe keeps teaching a lesson, the same lesson until we're ready to learn from it, right?
Yep.
What was your part, Adam, that was like, I'm done with the suffering? I know the work's going to be hard, but what was your part? If you don't mind my asking, Adam,
yeah,
so that anyone's listening, what was your part that you're like, I'm done with this suffering now? This is now, I've got to do the work to get out of this.
Sure. I was very fortunate because I had a guy who his wife had just cheated on him with two men at the same time, broke his heart, married to her for many years, kids. This was in Dubai, and he came and stayed with me for a couple of weeks. And in that experience, he witnessed my wife in her natural environment, and he witnessed the interactions he had with me, she had with me. And at work, he would say, "You know, you're in an abusive relationship, right?" And I can't tell you how much I laughed when that first came out of his mouth. Until on the drive home, I was like, oh, putting it all together all of a sudden. So sometimes it takes somebody to reflect something back at you. Like we are designed, humans are designed for two things, all right? Struggle, which is different to suffering. Struggle is noble. You bear that cross, and it's something that's going to have an impact and make the planet better than when you came, right? That's a struggle. Struggling with something like that it's inspiring, not just for you, but for others. And the other thing we're designed for is connection, struggle and connection. If you isolate a human from any one of those two things, you end up with a human suffering. So connection, right? We will do all manner of things to remain connected to other human beings, despite all the suffering. Like we were put up with so much, but so long as we're connected. And oftentimes that goes, we don't even want to see the red flags. We don't want to see the heavy drinking. We don't want to see the reckless driving. We don't want to see the dangerous behavior, right? It's like, I'm all right. I want to see it. And so having it reflected back at you is what did it for me. But really, I think it can if you're open to it, grace will, like you said, the universe keeps sending us that lesson. I describe it as a little feather kind of tickling you to get your attention. You ignore it. And then there's a little tap on the shoulder, it's a car crash or something. And then there's a 4x4 hitting you around the face. Something major happens. It's like, Jesus Christ, when are you going to stop, right? Listen and just be present and be with that which you cannot be with. Just like, hold on a minute, just consider that. And I think that's really, that's when somebody is, again, when they're done suffering, when they arrive at that point, that's the hero's journey. That's when it begins. That's the calling in the hero's journey. All right. It starts with that. You get the calling. And the next step after the hero's journey, after the calling, is the refusal of the call. That's where the little tap on the shoulder turns into a 4x4, right? So you'll get the calling. Everyone does.
We all do.
We all do. So answer the call, trustful, and when you trustful cross the void into the unknown, someone will appear, and they will catch you, they will hold your hand, and they'll walk you through it.
And that's an old saying from that kind of touches on Buddhism, which is one of the old sayings is the Buddha only appears when he's ready, when you're ready to hear him. The Buddha has always been there, but Buddha, you will only listen when you're ready to listen. And I suppose that's when you understand. Now, Tom, you kind of touched on the self-sabotage. Now, for anyone that's going through, what was your internal conversation like? I always try and get everyone to talk about what were they saying internally through that sabotage process, so that we never really want to talk about those inside conversations. We never want to talk about the monkey mind. We never want to talk about the different the 12 saboteurs that we have, which could be the saboteurs such as the victim, the hyper focus. What was your conversation like internally, Thomas, that you didn't want to talk about?
Who are you to sit on this podcast and talk about this thing and guide other people to healing? Who are you to, you know, work in digital marketing and coach other people in their business? And who are you? You know, who are you to have such a lovely wife and a happy home and all of that? Why don't you just step back and just go and do something else? You don't want to do that. Do this. All my life, I've been suffering with that internalized suppressive voice, which has basically been holding me back. And it was there before the military.
Yeah.
It's always been there.
Can I ask you a question, Tom?
Go for it.
Whose voice was it? It will have sounded like somebody.
Yes, it would. And it stems from every single bully that was at school, that was chasing me around the school, stealing my stuff, smashing my Walkman, smearing shit over my blazer. It was the Farouk Majusi that smashed my GCSE art coursework, which got me an A. It was every single person that was telling me I was no good, buck teeth, big hair, big ears. It was my parents telling me that I couldn't go out and do things that my younger brother could. It was every suppressive adult that was telling me no, I couldn't, when all I wanted to do was just go out and play and be a kid. It was the voice of suppression. It was that critical adult that was there. No, no, no.
Yeah.
And that comes out of me in my moments of weakness now.
Of course.
It's the dominant aspect of me, which was nurtured, believe it or not, in the military, because it's autocratic. It's do what I say right now, don't question, get up and go, run over there, do that, etc. It's the voice of every poor corporal that I had bully the shit out of me as a young AC, LAC. It's that voice, and there's a name for it. And he's dressed in black, and he sits over here on the right hand side, looking down at us, called the manager.
You call that the manager? Is that the process that you learned through Save a Warrior, or is that what you labeled it?
This is through Save a Warrior.
Right,
So I had no knowledge or understanding of this thing before that before that first day.
Yeah.
At Warrior Village, but now I know. It's like, oh, I get it. I get it. I can see. It's all there. I'm like I get it now. And work after the fact with going through certain anonymous groups and keep learning and understanding this internal. Adam and I went through took me for an inner child hypnotherapy session, which, like you said, in one session, achieved more for me in terms of answering a question than my entire life of talking to people and all of that therapy, etc. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that there was an internal younger Tom. I didn't know that there was a critical parent. I didn't know that there was someone screaming with a hand grenade ready to just press the fuck it button all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was these different personalities, because that's schizophrenia, right? We're all crazy and they've got different voices in our heads. Welcome to our mental institution. Hey, isn't it pretty? We've made it really nice for you guys. Come on in. Who does that sound like, Adam?
Yeah, Jake Clark, the man.
Yeah, you have 100% just nailed it. That was the self-destruction for myself way back in the day. Was I thought, oh my God, I must be mental. I must be schizophrenic. I must be bipolar. I must be every kind of mental illness that has ever been part, which is why people still don't want to talk about mental health, which is why we don't want to talk about it, because we're like, no, my conversations must be a hell of a lot scarier than yours. And I'm like, when I share some of the conversations that I have with clients that I'm working with, they're like, oh, that's what I do. I'm like, yep, let's go through the process of the conversation. Yes. And it's our emotions. We don't understand it's our emotions that are coming through in a voice from things that have happened in the past, which completely messes up. So Tom, as you've told me to call you, thank you. That will resonate with so many people. And the amount of times I've rattled on about conversations on my TikToks and on all these things, like, it doesn't mean you're mental. Don't ever underestimate the power of the language, the internal language that we have, that will just change the path and the currents that we're in life. This has been extremely powerful tonight, gentlemen. They're genuinely very, very powerful. So now, Adam, you've kind of touched on to consciousness, and consciousness is something I'm passionate about. And I always share, I probably start repeating the same books in a lot of the podcasts. So I hope somebody goes and buys the book. It's not by me, so this is not a sell. But I'm always fascinated, and I think it's a powerful book, Power versus Force, by Dr. R. Hawkins.
Hawkins, yeah.
Oh, love that book. And I think if anybody could take away that book before they come to Save a Warrior, before they come to one and say, that's me. And the second book I always mention is Stop Thinking, Start Living by Richard Carlson. Phenomenal book. Because that literally was the check box, check. I was like, all right, I've got an answer. So I always share that in a podcast. When it comes to the people feeling stuck and lost in hopelessness and the lower consciousness, the lower vibrations, Adam, how do you get people to understand that, to get them to move up the consciousness from victim to helplessness to hopelessness into the warrior, into that ether? How do you do it, Adam?
Well, okay, you've invoked him, so let's use his model. If you look at his spectrum of emotions, at the bottom we've got the lead of emotions, which is shame.
Yeah.
Shame is the densest, heaviest of the emotions of the human experience. Okay.
Yeah.
That courage we have at 200 hertz, which is the midpoint.
Yeah.
So if you reach courage, that means that you're no longer in those lower vibrations and you're about to ascend into higher vibrations of experience. And then obviously we have love and enlightenment at the top. Well, for me, I approach this in a number of ways, but if we stick with shame. Shame is a very, very interesting emotion. Essentially, shame, the patterns of shame, is that as children, something will happen to us, typically from our caregivers, right? Or it won't happen, so it's an omission of something that should happen to us and it didn't. Either way, we will take that experience and we will take that shame and we will hide it behind us. Okay, we'll hide it behind us because ultimately what we're doing there in our little infantile mind that is all reptilian, it's no logic going on whatsoever. Yep. We have to stay connected to mummy and daddy. So if they're abusing us, we still have to stay connected because we rely on them for our survival 100%. So what we do is we take this lump of shame, and this shame has got writing on it that says you are unlovable. That's why they're doing what they're doing. Okay, so we take that shame and we put it over there, we hide it. And, you know, we carry these lumps of lead around with us and we grow up and we adapt to those lumps of lead, and we have survival traits that we pick up, surviving these events that have happened. And over time, they don't get integrated. And over time, they become personality traits. Okay. And well, that's just the way I am. Right. And lo and behold, if you ever have an existential crisis or some calling of a high magnitude, you suddenly confront all of those piles of lead that you had in your little dragon cave. Okay. And there's a little dragon protecting them. And, you know, that's what happened. And once you face that voluntarily, you begin to give that lead back. And you say to your parents, I'm sorry for making you wrong for all these years. You didn't know what you didn't know. I'm sorry for making you wrong for being human. Right? That's ultimately what we do. We don't forgive them. Who are we? We're not gods, right? We can't forgive them. Who are we to forgive them? You know, they didn't know what they didn't know. We experienced what we experienced. We went through it. And so there is a whole process there. And so a long-winded way of saying that, you know, emotions are energy in motion, emotion. It's time that we all upped our game when it comes to emotional intelligence, not to something that's a privilege, but something that's a foundation to society, whereby we can interact with these emotions as energies in our body, okay, that are want to be in motion, transmute, we can increase their vibration, or we can simply express them without any repercussion or fear of repercussion or judgment, and thus allowing that alchemy to occur. And so we just need to have, you know, an awareness of emotions. And, you know, it's okay. It's okay if someone's angry. You know, it's one of your values have just been transgressed. Maybe you transgressed your own values. That's why you're angry.
Yeah.
You've let yourself down. So, you know, this higher level of emotional awareness is absolutely key to dealing with the suffering piece. Right. And once you start to do that, but you can't do any of that if there's a lump of lead of shame that's been left unaddressed. And the moment, by the way, you take that lead and you give it back, right below it is a pool of unmourned grief. Okay. And when you release that grief, it has to be mourned. We go through a process of doing that. There's a very specific process in the program, in the 72 hours residential program that we do. And once you mourn that grief and you fully move that grief out of your system, one, you'll sleep really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
After that.
Yeah.
And but two, you're lighter. You're much lighter. You will regress in age. I've seen people go back 10 years in age in those 72 hours multiple times. And so it's possible. It's there. It's there. It's a possibility for everybody who comes to us. And yeah, there's obviously a lot that I can say on emotions. Emotions are animal-based bodies that we have. These meat suits are, you know, half of it is grounded in the earth, and we're animals. We have instincts, urges, and desires, and that's okay. We have fears, we have anger, we have jealousy. That's okay. We are also animals, but we're also higher conscious beings. And I think once you can create that alignment, that stacking, and you learn to use the meat suit a lot better. We are just tubes, but we are, you know, some people would say it's a curse, but we are connected to that divine golden thread. We have higher consciousness. We just do. We're not deers that, you know, one minute they're getting attacked by a lion, the next they're shaking it off, recalibrating their nervous system and eating grass. When, you know, we're not just that, right? We are asking why. What's it all about? So we got to have that alignment stacked correctly to answer the existential questions of life. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. And yeah, trust us. We've done it a lot, thousands of times. And yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Thomas, sorry, Tom, you listen, and it always, when I'm watching you, I'm like, he wants to say something. So, Thomas,
my two penneth bit.
Go for it, because we're wrapping up, because this is powerful.
Yeah.
This has been an exceptional podcast, I can tell you that now.
There's that shame that happens to us, and there's the shame that we also do to ourselves. You know, I've let the cat out of the bag and the rabbit out of the hat, etc. About, you know, shameful acts at the tail end of my military career here, but I openly admit in the use of recreational drugs. You know, that's a shamed act on myself. That's something that am still working through, and it's a it's something that I think that's, well, I think I know. That's why the relationship with my parents has not been the same since, because I openly admitted to them. Now, let's look at that. That says that they weren't safe people to share that level of detail with, because they weren't ready to hear the thing that I was wanting to say. Now, take that into any other conversation with any other person. You've got to choose the person you're telling this stuff to. And you can't, I mean, you can sit on a bus next to a complete stranger and tell all. It's quite a liberating feeling to just talk to a stranger knowing that you're never going to meet them again. All right. But if you then go and tell someone that's close to you, that you see every day, and maybe they're a little bit of a gossip, or they like to talk, because guess what? Everyone's talking bad stuff about you, whether they're your friends or not. But if you tell people that aren't safe this deep, dark secret, they can turn around and weaponize that on you. So there's, on one hand, we're saying, look, you need to trust, and you need to talk, and you need to be open, and you need to get it all off your chest, and just talk. You've got to talk. But you've got to talk to the right person. That the first person is yourself. The first person you've got to talk to is actually have a bloody good, strong conversation with yourself. Man in the mirror, that stuff there. You've got to be on. I was honest with myself for the first time on the 18th of August 2022, when Kate threw it at me and said, you're an alcoholic, you're doing all of this stuff. And she just balls out, just said it all at me. And then I was like, well, you know what, I am. And I admitted it for the first time, that I had I'm an addict. I'm addicted to things. Doesn't matter what it is. It's a process or a chemical. I just have to do more. I need to be ahead of everyone else. I was the feeder at parties. I was always the one that was last on the dance floor. I wanted to see everyone else having a good time, and it would hide my getting pissed. But tangent, coming back, you've got to have these conversations with safe people. And at Sabre Warrior, we are safe. Adam's told me stuff in the strictest of confidence that I will hold for him, and in meditation, just pass it off, and relieve his weight through knowing. Adam knows something about me that no one else on this planet knows, not even my wife, not even people that I sat with in Sabre Warrior in America. I wasn't ready to share that with them, even the most openness I've ever been in my entire life. But Adam, we've shared that. He's got it. He's holding that for me. I know in complete faith that he won't tell anyone what that is, and that's good to know. It's safe with him, and it's getting that unshareable problem off my chest, because that was the deepest, darkest, shameful secret that I could never tell another human being. That's the thing that was driving me towards suicide at 120 miles an hour. That's the thing. And the second it's gone and it's spoken, it's that, lifting that lead weight, it's light. It's like, I'm still here. It's okay. And okay, it's Tuesday. Let's get on with it. And sometimes Adam and I, we have these conversations that go incredibly deep, and then we come back just to talking about calendars or or whatever. And in a split second, it's there. Okay, got that off your chest? Yeah, good. Come back. And it's never experienced anything like it. It's incredibly powerful. And if only every relationship and conversation between every single human being on this planet could be so open, bloody hell, that would solve a lot of problems, wouldn't it? A lot can happen with a good, honest conversation.
It's the judgment that flies around that stops those conversations happen, isn't it? I think Adam would agree with that as well.
Yeah, there's lots of things. There's lots of things, you know. I would say that maybe 20, I use the 80-20 Pareto distribution for this example, but I mean 80% of the people are walking around with something that's unshareable, this lead weight, this burden, they're suffering, but they're looking good. They look good.
Yeah.
Look at the celebrity world. My God, they all look good. Look at the Instagram thing. They look good, right? They look good so as to not look bad, okay? And so they're going to protect all of that racket and at the expense of connection, of authenticity, of truth, you know?
I was just writing it down. Do you know the biggest, the highest vibration is authenticity. It's no longer gratitude, it's authenticity.
Yeah, it's all of you. It's your essence, you know, it's your being, it's your very essence. And if, you know, none of this division that we are seeing in society at the moment is the thing, that's just noise. That's just fear-based mechanisms.
Yeah.
Actually, when you connect to your unique essence of who you are, you're appreciated for that. You don't need to have a title, a name, fancy this, that, or the other. It's this authentic grounding. So if you find other humans that are in that state, that vibration, you know, connect to them and have an experience of like being connected to that. See how that feels. Yeah. And go to our website and click submit.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll do a lot of promo for you. We will. You have to feel it to heal it. Popped up while you were talking. That lovely saying that genuinely, once you feel it, you heal it, and there's power in that. Tom, it sounds like that's what you've gone through, and Adam yourself as well.
Say that again. Sorry.
You feel it, you heal it.
To heal it.
Yeah.
And while we're not feeling it, we're pushing it away. We're avoiding it, and that's
that's the numbing, isn't it? That's
the numbing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just want to say, you know, we are a suicide prevention program, right? That's what we do.
Yeah.
And therefore, we've studied suicide, the phenomena of human suicide, quite deeply, right? So we have it as 4 steps that lead to suicide. Step 1, something happens. Typically from the age of 0 to 18, something happens. Step 2, that kicks off that shame. You take that shame, that experience of shame. And we will engage in that shame in a way that's dissociative. We will avoid that shame. We will numb it, right? And we dissociate, and then we get another dose of shame for doing that. And then so we've got this triangle going on that's keeping the shame alive in a way. On top of that, in our everyday waking life, our conscious world, right? And this is where the Jungian process comes in. There's a conscious everyday awake state, and there's the unconscious. Well, the shame resides in the unconscious. And so in the conscious world, if you've got this triangle of shame going on underneath, you're creating a story. You've got this whole story and this narrative what's going on, and you're keeping yourself engaged. That's step 3. In your story, you're going a bit of drama. You've got exogenous chemicals, endogenous chemicals. You've got a bit of drama. That's a bit of a bit of chaos. Love a bit of chaos. That's why soap operas are so popular, right? Or you go to the chemical, getting that high, you know, trying to get that whole thing going. That's step 3. And then that's going to kick you off course from your true, authentic expression of who you are. That kicking off course, we call it the drift. The drift is always on. Even for people that have come through Save a Warrior, they're acutely aware the drift is always on. Depending on the severity of your ACE score, the drift will be quite intense or quite gradual. The drift is always on though, don't kid yourself. Do the work, or do the effing work is how we say it. So that's step 4. That drift, when left unchecked, the only destination for that drift unchecked is suicide. Those are the 4 stages that lead to suicide. And we unravel all of that in the space of 3 hours. And it is presented to you on a whiteboard. Can't avoid it. You can't look away. It's all there. And something oh, oh, that's me. And then 10 other or 9 other people on the line going, oh, oh, that's me. And all of a sudden we're realizing, oh, this is a human thing. Uh-huh. Okay.
I'm not special.
I'm not special. I'm just my thing is not special. So it doesn't matter. You come to us, okay, look, you've done 6 tours of Afghanistan back to back. You've got PTSD diagnosis. You've got a drug problem, an alcohol problem. Okay, there's abuse in your family. There's horrendous things. It's not a story, an event, something that's happened that I haven't heard. It's all received in the same way because it's all the same patterns. Something happened as a child, you made it mean something about you.
Correct.
And that there connects us in our humanity. And it's the map that I speak of. It's the process and the steps. We unravel it all. We see it. We're able to look for the first time. And then we release and we step into possibility. For the first time ever, you're stepping into possibility. You're declaring yourself as being husband, friend, father, lover, whatever it is that's authentically you. That's what you're declaring day by day. Every day you wake up anew, fresh. And that's the revitalizing energy. That's what, people regress in age after the program. They find their calling, they're in service, and they typically come back. And they come back to serve the next cohort.
Yeah. And there's power in serving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom, how does that power feel turning into service?
I don't like the word power. I like the word purpose. I I feel like I wrote an email to someone today just talking to them about the community of compassion, which is how people can sort of, help Sabre Warrior on a monthly process if they're a business and they're able. And I was saying to him that, for the first time in my life, even through my military career, I've got purpose. I know what I'm doing when I get out of bed in the morning, and even if I haven't got anything in the diary, I know what I'm doing. It's pick the flag up and move it forward one more day. It's talk about this thing called Sabre Warrior just one more time. It's rattle that cage just one more time. It's stand there on the street corner on a soapbox, belting out what this thing is called Sabre Warrior just one more time. And for the first time, I don't have to think that hard about what I have to do. I'm not making this shit up. It's there. For the first time, I've been to university and I've got the qualification, and it's just flowing out of me. And it took me to have to question everything about my life to get here.
All right. It's okay. It's good.
There it is.
This power. It's power. It's just powerful on every level. This might be one of the most enlightening and enjoyable podcasts that I've had the pleasure to be a part of. I've hosted a lot of podcasts, and when you hear for anyone watching this and listening this, and I share it out as much as I can, whether you find it or define it as a power to serve or a purpose to serve, it gives us reason. And when we're going through life without purpose, without reason, without a flag to move forward every day, we can think we're lost. But as Adam said, there is a map. And the map just needs to get discovered. And when you're ready to end that suffering, the map will appear to you. And on that, I will say a massive thank you to Adam and Tom, and remind everyone who's listening to this podcast that if it's in the mind, it can be managed. Wherever you are in life, wherever there's darkness, we can find light. There might be nothing around to to allow us to perceive that while the manager's talking in the background, whatever you want to call that dark voice and that inner critic. Mine was my monkey mind. I was absolutely torn with it for many, many, many months until I realized there was a possibility of now and presence. And we do veer, but we can always come back when we have not just tools, but strategy and purpose. And on that, thank you very much, gentlemen. And I will see you all on the next podcast. Big
Thanks,
love from
Cuddy.
Cuddy, as always. Adam?
Take care. Thank you so much, Cuddy. Thank you, everyone.
Not a problem at all. Tom?
Thank you very much, Cuddy. And we're ready to catch.
Nice. And I think we'll end on tubes. I think that was the word that I've
Tube.